This is Steve with Rocky Mountain ATVMC, and today I'm going to show you how to install our Tusk Mohawk Extreme Duty High Clearance Trailing Arm on a Polaris RZR XP 1000. There's lots of different types of suspension systems on UTVs. Now the ones that utilize a trailing arm system are generally for long travel, high performance applications. Now they do have a downside, and that's they're more susceptible to overcoming obstacles and they could get damaged. So we've come up with our Tusk Mohawk Extreme Duty High Clearance suspension components. Now these are much stronger and have a better overall design, which will give you more clearance where you need it most. And they come in a bunch of different colors. Now these Mohawk trailing arms have been proven to work much better than most out there, especially when you're climbing walls, ledges, and very technical stuff. So today I'm going to show you how to install them on this 2019 Polaris RZR XP 1000. Now these procedures that I'm going to show you will be very similar on your 2014 and newer RZR 2 and 4-seater XP 1000 and turbo models. To do this job you'll need some basic hand tools, a torque wrench, a drill, a strap, a rivet gun, gloves and safety glasses, and a copy of your OEM service manual for more information, proper procedures, and specs. You will also need your Tusk Mohawk Extreme Duty High Clearance Trailing Arm Kit, which comes with 2 trailing arms and all the hardware needed to install it. You will also need to read thoroughly through your instructions that come with the kit before you begin your install. The first thing we need to do is raise our machine so that we can remove our suspension components. Now make sure when you do this that you do it in a safe manner, so that you don't cause injury to yourself or damage to the machine. Now let's remove the lug nuts and the rear wheel. Now you can do this job simultaneously with the other side, but I found that it's much easier just to do one side at a time, and you just repeat the same process with the other side. Now let's remove any fastener holding the brake line to the trailing arm, along with removing the sway bar link. Anytime you remove a nylon lock nut, the Polaris manual recommends that you replace it with a new one. If this bolt becomes difficult to get out, go ahead and remove the upper bolt and just remove the link altogether. Next, let's remove the shock bolt nut only, along with the trailing arm front nut only. Now let's grab a stand or a jack or something that we can use to support the hub assembly as we disassemble it. Now what we're going to do is remove the 4 nuts that hold the hub to the trailing arm, but we want to leave the long bolts in it. Now the reason that we're doing that is so that when we remove the lower bolt from the shock, it will kind of keep it together while we rest it down onto our stand. Then we can strap the shock up out of the way with a strap. Now we can slide the trailing arm off of the hub bolts and then go ahead and reach forward and remove the mounting bolt from the front of the trailing arm. Now let's grab our Tusk Mohawk trailing arm and the 2 stainless steel spacers and install them in the spherical bearing in the front mount. Now we're going to install the trailing arm back in the same way that we took the old one out. Just make sure that the brake line stays on the upper outside of the trailing arm. Now that we have the trailing arm in place, let's go ahead and reinstall the front mounting nut and torque it to 70 foot-pounds, and then we will reinstall the 4 nuts that hold the trailing arm to the hub and torque those to 42 foot-pounds. Next, remove the strap from your shock, and we need to install the shock onto the trailing arm. You may need to pick up on the hub assembly and move your stance so that you can do this. Now let's install the nut and torque it to 70 foot-pounds. We can now install the sway bar length. I'm going to start with the bottom bolt first and then install the top one, and I'll torque them both to 40 foot-pounds. On a side note, anytime you remove bolts from a machine, you always want to install in the same direction. Like on this link, one bolt is facing in and the other bolt is facing out. Next, we need to mount the brake line back to the trailing arm. We're going to use 3 of the existing clamps and drill holes and then rivet them to the trailing arm. The first one we are going to do is in this triangle area. You want to measure out a ½ inch from the weld and drill your hole there. I like to use a center punch and a hammer. This will help keep the drill bit from walking when you're drilling. The next hole you're going to drill is between the sway bar mount and the shock mount. There's a gusset there. You just need to find the middle of the gusset, measure out a ½ inch from the weld, and drill there. And the last one, we need to start from the front of the trailing arm and count back to the 5th window, measure out a ½ inch from the weld, and drill there. Now grab your drill and a 3/16 drill bit and go ahead and drill all 3 holes out. Just be careful when you do this. Now grab the 3 rivets that were supplied in the kit and go ahead and use those to rivet the brake line clamps to the trailing arm. Now when you're installing the brake line, make sure that there's enough slack in the brake line down by the hub assembly. Now if you don't have a pneumatic rivet gun, a manual one will work just as well. Now let's install the wheel and torque it to the manufacturer's specification. Now that we've got the wheel on, you can definitely see the clearance that you gain by using our Tusk Mohawk trailing arms. Now the procedures that I just showed you, you'll do those same exact procedures on the opposite side. And that's it. That's all there is to installing the trailing arms on your Polaris RZR. Come check us out at RockyMountainATVMC.com for more parts, apparel, and accessories. And don't forget, all orders over $75 ship for free. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is Steve. We'll catch you next time.